guys, I'm Fabi and I'm here with Waleed Mohammed, who is from Palestine, and we're going to be conducting the interview, the portion of the point of view from someone from Palestine. So hi, welcome, how are you?
Pretty good, how about you?
Good, thank you. All right, so to start off, tell us about your background.
So it's a bit of a stretch. So I was born in Gaza Strip, which is a part in Palestine, and I'll just give you a brief background about Gaza. So it's been like, it's the only place where it's not under the Israeli occupation.
Okay.
And there's many sieges since 1990s, and they're trying to siege the people in a way. So I was born in 1998, and I was born there, and many issues, many wars happened. 2000, I think, maybe 2006 and 7, and then the latest war I was in 2014. So, which is then my family had a trouble and we had to move. So there are like refugees camps, and from refugees camps we went to
Where were the camps?
It's like a place by the Gaza Strip, so we were able to get out. Somehow, I don't know. And we then moved to Egypt for a while, and then we applied to asylum, and then finally we came to the United States.
Okay, so how long have you been in the States?
Since 2015.
Oh wow, so it happened all within a year that you were moving and trying to find a home, essentially.
Yeah. If you're gonna go back to history, like from 1948, I was from a village originally, but then my grandfather moved to Gaza, I think in 1967. But then over the time, my family all spent there in Gaza until like the latest war, 2014, and we just moved from camps to camps, and then finally there's like a tunnel where like people go through and wait for days. They can wait up to months just waiting for their turn to go to Egypt if they would like to get it. And
how long were you like in the tunnels?
For 4 months and 25 days. People there, and especially in Gaza until now, the people who couldn't get out for some reason, many reasons, like financially, they have problems with their passports, they have many other issues, but in general, it's people there are like sieged by everywhere. Even sea, you cannot just fish. There are regulations where you can't fish. We were lucky enough to get out, to go to Egypt through like 5 months period, and stay there for another 6 months until like the process of asylum and you have to prove and whatever. And then we moved to here.
To America.
Yes, my father and mother. I have 4 siblings, so in total 5.
So all 5 of you guys were able to come here?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thankfully,
Yeah. Does it happen a lot where families get split up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because some people, let's say, like their father and mother, one of them doesn't get it, and one of them has to stay, and the other has to go to support his family. So it has many aspects. Some people leave the the eldest child, let's say he's 18 or like 25, so they keep him there, and then they leave, and then after the years they try to get in, which can take up to like 4 years, 6 years, sometimes 20, depends. You hear like other apartments or other like buildings getting exploded, and like the fear is like you don't know when it's going to be your part or when it's going to be your turn. So you're just gonna hear sound and just hope to God that nothing will happen,
Yeah.
But you have to accept it in a way that you have to continue your life. So hope was the
biggest factor for you. What's your religious background?
I'm Muslim.
You're Muslim?
Yeah.
Are you like avid in practicing the religion?
Yeah, to some extent, yeah.
Okay. How did you find it adjusting here in America? Or you still are in a way?
Yeah, but no, I didn't find any difficulties like practicing my religion here in the US. There are many mosques you can go. There's a community, many communities, Muslim communities, and Palestinian too. But no, I haven't seen any troubles to practice my religion.
Okay. Do you face any discrimination sitting in America then? Do you feel like you were saying with your religion, you don't feel like anything?
No.
Like no one's been.
No, as long as You don't go to like extreme locations in Chicago where you can have something whatever you want.
Leads into one of the other questions. With a recent refugee ban from the Trump administration, do you feel like this has impacted you?
Thankfully, when we came here, Trump didn't have the.
He wasn't in office?
Yeah, like when we came, I think he was in February 2014 when he came. But we came at the beginning of the year where like Obama still had his ruling. But lately, yes, because there's an application for the asylum, it takes they give you the asylum, but it takes like 5 years or 6 years to get the like U.S. citizenship and the passport.
Yeah.
You can get the green card in 2 or 3 years, but after that, yeah, you have to wait, I think, and they see your application. But of course, like Trump's to nowadays, maybe it just slows the process. But it doesn't matter because they granted me the asylum.
Yeah.
So
it hasn't
maybe it's
affected
just a
you
process of
directly.
time.
Do you have any like friends or family, like distant family, that are trying to apply for it and they found it difficult?
Yeah. Yeah, especially for like the recent thing that happened in I think 2018 when they moved the Jerusalem as a state of Israel, and so they started to like reject many applications coming from Palestine because like I'll explain the case, the passports we have. So the people living in Jerusalem have two kind of passports. One, which is like we call it Hasedesi, which is like it's like a document where it's provided by the Israeli government that allows you to travel under certain circumstances. And many circumstances include like you have to pay a fine, you have to do this, you have to do that. But it's not it's like a paper or a document you travel with that doesn't allow you to go to many countries.
Okay.
And the other thing, there's like the Palestinian the Palestinian Authority passport, which is a black one. And this passport allows you to travel if you're outside Palestine, but cannot get you into Palestine.
So your whole life has been this.
Yeah.
Is there any way that you can kind of summarize it to someone who doesn't know anything about this topic?
So I'm gonna summarize it in an example. So let's say you own a house.
Yes.
It's under your name since all your families have been like living through this house. And let's say your family name is Overton. And it's always Overton's house. In my family, one day, I have power, I have money, I have basically everything. And I like your house. So just basically one day I came and I told you to get out. And of course, as a reaction, you'll say, no, this is my house, and you'll struggle for your house. But then, of course, I have power and money, so I kicked you out and I stayed in the house. Over the years, just to prove that I didn't do anything, I told you, you can stay in the garden, but not in the house. You can stay in the back garden or you can stay in the garage area, but don't dream about getting back to your house. And I'm using my power again to show that this is originally my house. So if that makes sense too.
Do you think Israelis and Palestinians can live together peacefully? If we're talking about religion, yes, they can coexist peacefully because they have done it in the past.
Yes.
But the topic isn't religion.
So
It's the conflict and the power and the fact that like who wants this more in a way, and
I think now they're making so much out of it because you used to live before, like why
why
they can't live peaceful like before.
what do you think of the previous efforts that have been tried to solve the conflict?
So many many countries try to solve the issue, but in the media way it's solving. Like it looks like they're trying to solve.
The media is showing that it looks like it's being solved.
And this is like trying to convince the public that here's like we're trying to solve the issue. I know that many issues happen with you both, but we're trying to convince you that Palestinians are not collaborating. But when you try to convince someone that this is not your house, although that you know deep inside that it is his house, there's no point of trying to convince. It is my right to have my house back, no matter what you say. I don't care what others try to do. You cannot accept this idea if this is something that belongs to you. You know,
Yeah.
that's so the reason, in my view, the solution, in my view, how this can be ended is just like I'll give you back your house.
All right, and we're recording. This is great. Everything is going perfectly. Okay, so tell us your background, who you are, how old you are, and your place of birth, and how long you lived in Israel.
Sure. I am 39 years old and I'm sorry, I'm 38. I'm going to be 39 next month.
Silly.
And I'm from New York and I lived in Israel for 6 years as an adult. I also grew up going there almost every other summer and to visit family and so I lived there and I got my master's degree while I was living there from Tel Aviv University, and I was working there as a waitress and a nanny and a manager of a restaurant at one point. So I did some various things there and got married there and then moved back here to Colorado where I live now.
What do you know about the conflict in Israel slash Palestine?
My first master's degree that I got when I moved to Israel was in Middle Eastern history. So I think that growing up, I learned, a lot of the Jewish Israeli perspective of the conflict. And my grandmother was a Holocaust survivor. So we are just kind of always were a very Zionist kind of family. Like she moved from um, Germany after the war to Israel, detained in Cyprus for 2 years. And so she kind of just always told us that Israel is the only safe place for the Jews and we have to have our own state and everything. So then I learned a lot about the history of the area and how there were always Jews and Arabs there. And, when I got my master's, it was learning about the Ottoman Empire and a lot of the countries surrounding. And we just kind of looked at it from different perspectives. And so what did what do I know about the conflict? I know that it's complicated.
So, why do you think previous efforts to resolve the conflict have failed?
Well, okay, a few things. One of the things that I really believe is that we are raising children in Israel and Palestine to not like each other. So I think as we do that, as we continue to raise children and teach them only one side of history, their own sides, um, that then those children are growing up and perpetuating the same problems that everyone else in leadership roles always has. So that's one problem, I think. And that I understand that when you raise children in a country to join the army and continue to fight for a cause, you need to have them be patriotic. But I think it can be dangerous because I think you're not teaching all of history. And I think another issue is the leadership, maybe on both sides, but I do believe that there really is a serious anti-Semitism, and that no one ever really wanted the Jews to have their own country. So, because to me, it's like, okay, maybe it wasn't done in the best way. Maybe the UN shouldn't even have voted for Israel to be a country when they did, but the fact is they did, and ever since then, it has been a fight to what land do they get, what land do they give back, and give back meaning many things. Like even that is a loaded thing in itself, right? Because who did it ever really belong to? And I absolutely blame the British for the current mess of it all.
So going off of that one, like now obviously the land, like for legal reasons, it belongs to Israel. But who do you think the land belongs to, or do you think it does belong to anybody?
I think people live on that land. I don't think you can just be like, oh, sorry, never mind. I mean, like, show me another country in the world that we do that to. That has to, once they've settled and made a country out of it, now they just have to be like, oh, whoops, Packer. There are people maybe living over the Green Line that, I've never really been a big fan of that situation. I don't really, I think like, okay, let's just stick to the lines that were originally drawn. And yet I also understand the argument of people who live there who are like, sure. And then there's another war, where we're attacked, and then we seize some land, and then we're supposed to give it back. Like, again, who does that? No one ever has to do that. Israel is always pressured to do it, and they do it, and peace never comes from it. So I don't think that you can just make people who live successfully in a country and who do very good things for that country to just leave. And I mean, I think they have every right now that they're there and established to remain a country. What does that mean for all citizens there? I think there should be equal rights, just like we're fighting for in this country with minorities. And like, absolutely, I'm sure Arabs are not always treated well, and they're treated as second-class citizens. And I'm sure that there are plenty of times where plenty of Arabs who would say they like living there because they're prosperous and they've made lives there and they're happy with it. So I do believe that the leadership in the West Bank and in Gaza Strip, I think that they are their own worst enemies, and they make the lives of their people miserable.
What do you think the core issue of the conflict is?
I really do believe in a serious anti-Semitism or anti-Jewish people, anti-Israel sentiment around the world, and I do believe that's at the core of the conflict. And I think that no matter what Jews or Israelis or anyone tries to do, I don't think that we're dealing with leadership in Gaza that wants Israel to exist.
Do you think that Israelis and Palestinians can live together peacefully? And by that extension, what do you think could possibly solve the conflict, or is there anything that could solve the conflict?
I do believe that education is super strong and important, and that's why, in my younger days, thought like, oh, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to help write curriculum, and we're going to teach these kids differently. And I wanted to go, but there's camps kind of all over the U.S., and I know they're here in Colorado. They bring Palestinian and Israeli children from that region here, so they're in like a neutral space, and they live together. They fight, they laugh, they cry, they do all the things together. Talk about the conflict with facilitators, like trained facilitators. I think it's called Bridges for Peace or something like that. And I think those kinds of things are amazing because, people have to see that there are humans on both sides of this thing, that we can't just be like, bomb them all, because we're talking about people. So, and people with different stories. So like they get to hear each other's stories. And I know that they do these projects in Israel also. Like there's Neve Shalom is a community that does that, where kids go to school together who are Israeli Palestinian. And I know that in the Arava Institute in the south of Israel, they do that too. I think they have Jordanians and Israelis living together. So
this is the last question. So you lived in Israel for 6 years. When you were there, what what was like day-to-day life, and basically what I mean by that is like was the like tension of the conflict like felt every day, or was it mostly just like a background thing, like a thing that would come up very rarely?
Well, it depends because, like, when I first moved there, there was like the bombings in the Carmel market in Tel Aviv, and so that kind of stuff was scary. And there were more bus bombings and like knifings, whatever,
Yeah.
on buses and stuff like that. So that was scary and like right there, But I mean, nowadays, like visiting Israel, I don't think you just don't even feel it as much, even if it's going on because of their amazing defense systems.
Yeah.
I think it's really easy to ignore, except for people who live close to Gaza. And otherwise, I just think that, again, like Israel has issues with their minority. Like, it's you feel that for sure,
Yeah.
just like you do here, if you're aware of it anyway, if your eyes are open to it.
Thanks so much for letting me interview you.